Sometimes you just get stuck. You don't know what you're doing, you're in over your head. We've all been there. And I'm not going to pretend that I've never used a walkthrough or a game guide. I'm not above that. But is anyone actually above that? Is there an above that? Is it low or is it just kind of a thing? Hi folks, it's Falcon. And today, gameranx asked the question, are walkthroughs and guides really a good thing? I'm just gonna start off saying, yeah, you've used one before. Don't say you haven't. If you never have, I mean, hi Jesus, how are you? What I'm saying is that this is not a purity test. What I talk about is going to be the actual advantages and disadvantages of using a walkthrough or a guide. I don't even want to make the implication a little bit up front or anywhere in this video that somehow using a guide makes you not a real gamer. It's just not it. But there are legitimate reasons that using a guide might be a good thing or might be detrimental. Let's start with bad. So, a lot of games are cohesive experiences that are meant to reveal to you different things as you progress that sort of affect your feelings in certain ways. Using a guide or a walkthrough can kind of prime you to miss that stuff. For instance, if you've followed me for any degree of time, you know that I'm quite wistful for the entire Final Fantasy series up until 10. And the reason I love them is because I experienced them. I didn't use a guide on any Final Fantasy. I just sort of dove in on those games, which I think is strange because I did use a guide on Metroid, which is significantly less information-oriented than Final Fantasy, but at the same time requires a little bit more in the memory area, and I've never been strong with that. Final Fantasy is a game that I just thought having to learn the secret combination to what makes enemies tick in the battle system, as well as having no idea whatsoever what was coming in the story, just made my experience better. Now I will say, on repeat playthroughs, I will use a guide because, while figuring out things that you already figured out isn't quite as fun, and like I said, my memory doesn't really account for all that stuff. The question is, does it spoil the game? Does it actually ruin the game? Or does it affect the quality of the game? If you have a sort of unfair advantage in a precognitive ability that none of the characters in the game world have themselves. Yes, I have a book that tells me your futures. Well, yes and no. Because I'll say, personally, would I have gone through the games with a guide later on if, I had never gone through them? I don't know, maybe today I would, but that's because of time. I have much less time as an adult than I did as a 16-year-old kid. And spending the time finding those magic battle combinations isn't necessarily something that I can do, even if I want to. And I certainly think that closing gaming off to people who have less time doesn't make it any better. If you're passionate about the medium, I would hope that you'd want more people to be able to enjoy it rather than less. And I certainly think that having a guide, well, it helps some people get into it. Some people, when they go to the store to pick up a game, and yes, some people actually still do that, also pick up a book. And some people look it up on the internet. Some people watch walkthroughs. And some people spend time carefully making video walkthroughs that don't spoil things. And with some care, you can actually be surprised by a lot of the things in a game while still knowing what's coming from a mechanical perspective as opposed to a narrative one. On some level, whether you're creating or playing games, there is an element of I want this to be fun. People don't make games that are supposed to be flat out unpleasant to play. Well, I shouldn't say people don't. I'm saying most people don't enjoy games that are flat out unpleasant to play. People do make them, but generally there's supposed to be some degree of fun in a game. And for some people, using a guide actually can undo the fun factor. It can make it into a list of criteria that you're simply fulfilling, whether it be button combinations or having the right attacks or statistics matched up to a specific chart put forward by somebody who's played the game 10 times already. It's certainly not a black and white issue, like, say, cheating in multiplayer. No, that is bad. You ruin the game for other people. But using a guide, it kind of, I don't know, it's your choice. And it changes how you experience the game, but ultimately, like I said, you can choose to experience it a certain way. I wonder if sometimes maybe people don't understand the full consequences of their experience regarding their choice of how to experience a game. I feel like it's definitely possible to have more fun with a game figuring everything out on your own, but that's also my personal opinion. And also, sometimes when I get stuck, that's that. It's time to check. I need to know, what do I do next? And when I say stuck, I mean days of stuck. I've been stuck for days somewhere. It's time to get out that guide. But there are some people that use it as a sort of trail map, so to speak, and I get that. I honestly understand it. Ultimately, I think it boils down to how you see a game. If you see a game as a puzzle to be solved, you probably don't want to use a guide. But if you see a game as a tour through another world, you probably do. If it's specifically to get to the end of that tour and understand everything about everything, or if you don't think you have the time or wherewithal to get through that tour otherwise, yeah, use a guide. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame. It really just depends on what you can enjoy, because that's ultimately what you're trying to do. Get some level of enjoyment, even if it's not necessarily quote-unquote fun. You want a positive experience. And if using or not using a guide makes it a negative experience, then do the opposite. Is using guides and walkthroughs in video games good or bad? It really depends on you. Depends on your goals, and depends on your viewpoint. Folks, I want to know from you, do you use guides when you play games? And be honest, it's not a point of bragging. It's just, let's have a discussion. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, and if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every single day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.